Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Where are you coming from? This is Adele Bernard from Transition Clarity. And once again, we're having an authentic conversation. What is this all about? Well, today my guest is Joel Solomon. He is a prosperity coach who helps others overcome obstacles standing in their way of their financial freedom. In 2021, Joel published personal management bestseller, Infinite Love and Money with Mollie Singh. In 2019, Joel published the 9 Money Rules Millionaires Use, only the Unconventional Ones, which was the bestseller in both self help and personal finance. In 2018, he published Mindful Money Management, Memoirs of a Hedge Fund Manager, which was also a bestseller. Joel is an award winning TEDx speaker and frequent podcast guest. He has led over 20 workshops teaching the concepts of how to overcome limiting beliefs. He has spoken at numerous Rotary clubs and Lions clubs in New Hampshire metropolitan area and at the Mercy College MBA program, as well as at Mike Dooley's Infinite Possibilities Training Conference in New Orleans. In March of 2018 and again in 2021. He led workshops at the Girl Scouts of America conference in Connecticut in 2019 and 2022, as well as the Boys and Girls Club in Stamford, Connecticut in 2018 and 2019. He's appeared on TV and CEO Money and Between the Covers. He also has been a guest on more than one podcast, including TED Radio, New York City, Westchester, Talk Radio, Voice America, Redesigning Your Life with Sabrina Sato, Going Solo, Smashing the Plateau, The Matter of the Heart, Every Day is a New Day show, Thrive Loud, the award winning Nice Guys podcast, and many, many more things that you can see in the bio. In 2022, Joel created a nonprofit organization, SaLaurMor, Charitable Giving Inc., to teach financial literacy to kids under 18 in the U.S. Salomon has been chartered financial analyst since 1995, and in 1992, he was named a Fellow of the Society of Actuaries. He is also an advanced communicator, gold Toastmaster, and certified Infinite Possibilities trainer and trailblazer. When not helping others to achieve their financial dreams, Salomon enjoys table tennis, bowling, and skiing. He also is an avid traveler and has visited 60 countries and 6 continents. You can also find all his links in the show notes. Also, want to share a little bit about what Transition Clarity is about and why we do this podcast, Authentic Conversations, because I'm all about change. I'm all about helping you move into the highest, best person you are here to be by shining your light like nobody else can. And what I hope to do with these conversations in the authenticity of them is share these beautiful people I'm meeting that have amazing attributes and qualities and services that I personally feel are worthy of sharing. And it's all about helping each other on the journey. Yes, I do one side of it on the energetic side, shining your light, finding out what's blocking you from moving forward. But like a lot of my guests, they have their own unique gifts, and that's why I share. So, with that, I'm going to welcome Joel to the show. Hi, Joel. Welcome to the show.
Adele, so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It's a true honor and pleasure to be here.
Well, yeah, like and as we were talking before we got going, um, the knowledge, the accolades, the speaking engagements you've done, right? I'm honored that you came to my show because it's like, but the more important thing is, like I said in the pre-show, is that these are all about the authentic conversation. And I love sharing people like you and other guests that I've had because all of us come together to help each other, right? And I believe you have training that can help a lot of people because you're here to help them however they want to learn, which is super important. And also that you're speaking from your truth, right? And your truth isn't for everybody. It's for the people you want to attract.
Right, and who resonate with me. So,
Mm.
if somebody asked me who is your target people, I would say spiritual entrepreneurs, people who get me and I get them, which means the Reiki master, the mindset coach, the hypnotist, the meditation teacher, yoga teacher, or energy healer,
Mm.
those kinds of people, we get along really well. Those are the people in my membership. Those are the people I've coached individually. And I've been able to help the most because a lot of those people are not experts in investing and they may not be experts in business planning. And those are two areas that I love to teach because I love numbers. I'm an actuary. FSA, by the way, stands for, there it is, Fellow of the Society of Actuaries. So I'm an actuary by training.
And
And and so I love numbers and I love to help people who are not so enamored with numbers.
well, and I think it's also important the fact that you have a collective group of potential clients that were told that they can't have money.
Yes.
Can't
Yeah.
you you can't be spiritual or you can't be on the woo-woo side and have money. And it's like,
Yeah,
why
and
not?
it's so prevalent in every media, right? So I remember like when I first started doing this 7 years ago, I met a woman who's a dance instructor from Germany, and she said we love to go to the movies growing up, and in every movie, it was in the movies that good people don't have money or take from the evil people and give it to the good people, but good people don't have money. And she's like almost every movie in Germany was like that. And I think it's prevalent here too in the States and in Canada as well.
Hmm.
It's just it's misinterpreted. And my belief is if you're a good soul, it's great to have a lot of abundance and prosperity to share it with the world. And how cool would it be to have 10 million Canadian dollars or US dollars or Aussie dollars and be able to give 1 million away
Hmm.
to your favorite charity or create one of your own
Hmm.
that really floats your boat, that really makes you excited. I started my own charity in 2023, SaLaurMor Charitable Giving, so that kids can be financially literate around the globe. And
Well,
that what really makes me excited to know that, it's not taught in schools, so let's teach it to them so that they can understand the value of money and how important it is to be prosperous and abundant.
And I think literacy, financial or not, is failing in
Mhm.
so many ways. And I've even been talking to people who are saying, like, the Gen Zs, they can't keep them in the office because they just can't communicate. And they're coming to these jobs saying, well, we can do all this, and they can't do it. Right. And I know growing up, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. And so money, numbers, like it was just table talk. Right. And I'm sure your girls were the same way growing up. Like, oh, there goes dad again and his numbers. Right. But they didn't know what they were learning because it was just everyday conversation. And then I'd look at people going, how do you not know this? How would I know
Right.
this? And I'm like, don't you talk to your parents? I don't even think my parents know this.
Money tends to be even more secretive than sex. And so people
In North
don't
America.
share. Yeah, North America. Yeah, for sure.
So I was listening to a podcast who was saying in Japan and in the Asian countries, you talk about money, you talk about weight, you talk about height, like all the taboo subjects that we have, right? But you don't talk about sex. And we're like, well, we talk about sex. Who cares? It's all free. Talk about money? That's the kiss of death. And I'm like, we should get together. We'll
Right.
teach you how to talk about sex and you teach us how to
Mhm.
talk about money.
Yeah, it's very interesting how it's a taboo subject. You're not supposed to share, your net worth or your value. And I did a video a few weeks ago about how you can't see people's worth,
Yeah.
can't see their abundance and prosperity. You can see their house, you can see their car, but they may have 90%
Own to the bank.
debt on the house. They that car may not be owned by them, it could be leased. And
Mhm.
so you're really not seeing at people's what the real net worth of somebody is, not only what's in the bank account, but in their stocks and other real estate properties, not their owned house. And it's also in their mindset,
Yeah.
and it's also in their net work,
Yeah.
because
Well,
your net
because
work equals your net worth.
yeah, your five closest friends is your net worth.
Average of your net worth. Yeah.
Yeah, like when I first heard that, it fascinated me because I was like, am I on the low end of the five or the high end of the five? Or just right in the middle? I never like I guess it depended, right? Because the
Right.
circle changes a lot, or it
Yes.
has in my case. And yeah, it always fascinated me because I was like, well, they're here and whatever. But yeah. So
When I was sorry to interrupt, when I was a
no,
hedge
okay.
fund manager, I spent a lot of time with CEOs and CFOs of insurance companies, money managers, banks. And so I was hanging out with billionaires.
Hmm.
I wasn't a billionaire, but it was fun to spend knowing this. I enjoyed my job, of course. I enjoyed analyzing and picking stocks, but it was also fun to just spend an hour at a conference with all these people who you knew were worth 10, 100, 1,000 times what you were worth. And they had to answer your questions. They were there they wanted to sell their stock, so they were very kind to you and spend a lot. It was fun environment to be in with these people who were very generous with their time and their mind,
Hmm.
because they had an underlying purpose, but still it was the generosity of their time, which I thought was just great.
Well, and it's also they started at the bottom too.
Yeah.
The ones that make
True.
it to big money aren't aren't fed with a silver spoon usually. And even if the family had money, didn't mean that they walked into it, right? They
True.
found their own way of living and making their own money. And but so what are some generalize things. Like, as we were talking before, that there's a lot of people blowing a lot of smoke. What would you want people to hear from you on this podcast? Like, not only just maybe to work with you, but just, I guess, to keep an open mind of who you're listening to.
Yes, and rule number 2 in the 9 money rules is trust your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Your higher self is giving you data and clues all day, every day. So trust that gut, trust the intuition. I will tell you, as a hedge fund manager, if I didn't trust my intuition, I either made less money or lost money.
Oh,
But no
interesting.
financial advisor or financial planner is going to tell you to trust your intuition, but I will. So that's most important. What is your and listen to it. What is your intuition telling you about, this person that you're listening to? And I truly believe that you can be, do, or have whatever you want. The most important part is being it first. If you want to be abundant, if you want to have a lot of money, if you want to be prosperous, be it first.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to do things to order to have things, and I say be it first. So how can you act as if you're already abundant? You want to go to the island of Maldives and do a retreat there with 50 people. Well, check out the different islands and see how much space they have, see how much the flights are, like act as if it's about to happen.
All right.
I had one of my early clients, she was in a very scarce mindset, very full of lack, even though she was worth a lot of money. And so I decided that we would meet in Midtown Manhattan at the Waldorf Astoria and do our coaching sessions there. So she would feel the abundance of people walking in and out. The average hotel room there at the time was probably $500-$600
Mm-hmm.
a night, and there was probably $1,000 and $2,000 suites there.
Mm-hmm.
And so the people there had more than the average. And so just being in that environment changes the way you feel, and you're being abundant by just being there and hanging out there. So that's one suggestion I would recommend. And so I think I'd like to inspire anyone who's listening that to think about ways that you're excited to generate abundance and prosperity. What excites you? If it's stocks, then I'd love to teach you. If it's real estate, I'd love to teach you. If it's your business is not making 20 or 30,000 US dollars a month, I'd love to teach you how to get there, to create a consistent revenue stream. Because I believe there's so many different ways
Mm-hmm.
to generate prosperity and abundance. But you have to be interested and passionate about it. It's not somebody telling you this is the way, you have to do it this way. Right? It's what is interesting and exciting. What are you passionate about? And that's, I believe, where the money will flow.
Well, and those are great examples because I've done them all. Like, I remember, like, it wasn't that I planned to go down to the fancy dancy hotels or whatever. It was just like, oh, let's just take a break before we move on. Let's go sit in the lounge at, the Marriott or whatever, right? And I've always been a huge people watcher,
Mm,
right? Because I can pick up so much energy from watching people. And so I'm like, interesting. I didn't know what I was unconsciously doing by
right.
sitting there, right? Like, my friends are just like, okay, this is boring. Let's go. And I'm like, no, it's fascinating. Look at all these people. And then I've
Yes.
also been in the rooms of the multimillionaires who, little old me, had something to teach them, right? And then 10 years later, being in a different room in this with these same people, and I'm like, you remembered that? Well, yeah. And I'm like, cool, right? Because I'm like, what do I have to say? But we all have our nuggets of gold, and we don't know who's going to grab them when they need them, right? And as we talked about, how those stage speakers, we'll call them, have the matrix. of so many hours, so many time. Then they'll buy. Then they have to come back. Then they'll like, right? So you keep in that hyped up state.
Right.
And that hyped up state, not following your intuition, ends up broke
Right.
because you're buying all these courses and you're doing nothing with them because it's overwhelming.
Yes. And I think I said this before we got on, that what I found, because I went to a number of them when I was starting this business, is I found that the speaker will get your belief level up to a level 10, where they've convinced you that this is the way to get rich. You came in with a level 1, you had no idea about stock options, you had no idea about investing, flipping properties, but they've convinced you that this is the way you will get rich. And so your level of belief goes up to here. You run to the back of the room, sign up for the course, spend the money, and then in the days and weeks ahead, your belief level is going back down to where it was before you went to the course. And so you go back, and you start doing the course, and your belief is like a 3. It's higher than it was when you went to the course, but it's still not a 10 where it was at that moment. And so, yes, probably you're not going to spend the time, you're not going to be excited and passionate about it, and you've wasted the money. So I prefer to not have to convince somebody. Like, I want you to I had a guy come to me 5 years ago and said, I want to learn about stocks. I want to learn everything you know. And I'm like, great, I'll teach you everything you know. So he came to me with the belief that that's the way, right? I had somebody else, I have had a number of people come to me this year and last year who wanted to grow their business. Like, how can I get my business from where it is to, and I helped a woman triple her revenues because she was passionate about a business. She's like, I need help. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then, we shifted a few things and she was able to triple her revenue. So I say, come to me with what you're interested and excited and passionate about, and I'll help you any way I can.
Well, it's interesting because I've been in those stock rooms that I was like, do I want to be a stock analyst? Do I want it? Hmm, I could do it.
But
I'm
if
not
you're not,
passionate.
but
I know,
I
and then
want you to be
I know, but
belief
then I'm
level,
like, no, it's not me.
right? So I say if your level of belief from 1 to 10 is a 10, and your desire level from 1 to 10 is a 10, burning desire, that's called expectation. If your belief level is a 10, your desire level is a 10, you expect to make money. And the people who have come to me who wanted to learn about stocks or wanted to grow their business, who expected that when we worked together, it would work, they were massively successful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because they expected it to work. The people who have come to me with massive doubt, it's it's not going to be working.
Yeah. No, and I mean, I remember in high school, like for an elective thing, we did um we had play money and we were in teams and everyone's like doing the big stuff and I'm like penny stocks guys and they're like what and I go penny stocks and they go why I go because one you don't have to lose as much but you can gain more and they're like what my team won whatever right it was fun like and they're going penny stocks I go you can sleep at night you don't have to stress out like you can pull out and they're going interesting right? Even my teacher is like, wouldn't have thought that. I go, that's what my gut said.
Right. Well, trust your intuition. That's rule number 2. And rule number 1, when you believe, so you believed and you trusted your intuition, right? So those are the 2 most important rules in my book.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is like without our intuition, we can go down a lot of scary paths.
Yeah, so let's talk about intuition a little bit because I teach a 9-week course called the 9 Money Rules Millionaires Use. And last week we talked about intuition. We're week 2. And so somebody asked me, like, how do you know intuition versus fear? Right. And so, first of all, I say develop your intuition like any other muscle.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go to the gym and do curls to develop my bicep. So you're making hundreds, if not thousands of decisions every single day.
Yeah.
So trust your intuition with start with baby steps, start with small decisions. Maybe you're going out, you're driving, and you have two different routes to take. Think about which way might have a lot less traffic and just go with your intuition and see which way. Just yesterday, it was very interesting. I had an intuitive, I was pulling out of a parking space with my daughters,
Mm-hmm.
and I had an intuitive hit not to move.
Mm.
So I looked at my mirrors and there was no one there, but my intuition was telling me, don't move. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, is this fear? Is this intuition? Right? Check in, see if this is like a fearful action or is my intuition telling me don't move because a car is about to come and I don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat there and the car went by
Wow.
and I hadn't seen it. And
Well,
so again, you have hundreds and hundreds of decisions all day long when you're driving, when you're walking, when you're in business, about to get on a Zoom call. You can say, okay, what time should I get on? Let's see if the person's going to be there 2 minutes early, 2 minutes later, right on time. When should I get on the call? Trust your intuition. What is it telling you? Little things like that is a way to develop the muscle so that it gets stronger and stronger so that when you do have some big decisions, you can go inside and ask yourself. Another great way to develop your intuition is to ask your higher self in the morning, what does my soul want to tell me today?
mm-hmm.
You can journal on it, right? So that's developing your intuition. And so as you develop it and it gets stronger, you can rely on it more and more, and you can rely on it to make decisions like as you did with stock investing. And so, and you can use it for other decisions like you're selling your house, who to sell it, what's the price to sell it at? That's
Yeah.
a bigger decision. Or you're going into a grocery store and maybe just selecting what type of apple to buy. Ask your intuition. What type of apple should this 12 different types of apples? What apple should I buy this week?
Yeah.
Trust your intuition. Little decisions can develop that intuitive muscle so that when you have bigger decisions, you can rely on it. Oh, I have some extra money. Where should I put it? Should I put it in stock? Should I put it in some real estate? Should I buy some crypto? Again, you can journal on it. You could trust your intuition. When it gets stronger and stronger, then you're like, okay, this is a really good investment opportunity.
Well, and I even bring it down to the basics when I look at my closet and I go, what am I feeling today?
Mm,
Do I feel
yeah.
brown? Do I feel blue? Do I feel yellow? Today, yellow,
Mm,
right? And they're like, what are you talking about? I go, some days you'll put on something and it's like, no, that doesn't fit me today,
right.
right? And I remember the first time I did a live in person speaking, never even thought about it, right? And I should have known. But this was years and years ago. And I was just like, so I put on this red shirt and I was jittery. I'm not the best in front of live people talker, but I was jittery. And one of the people said, oh, my dear, you know better. And I go, then what? Red to speak in front of a crowd? And I'm like, whatever. I got through it. Right? Because my body's already all fire as it is, and then I put red on top of it, and I'm trying to convey the message. Yeah, not so hot.
Or very hot.
Yeah, too hot. I'm yelling at you. Get this now.
So
But
yes,
I like how you're saying about the intuition because I used to love that. Like I had a girlfriend that um we get together and I go, where do you want to go? She's like, let's see where your car takes us. Sometimes we'd end up in the mountains, sometimes we'd be by a river, sometimes we'd just drive around the city. And it's beautiful every time because there's no fixed destination. We kind of had a loose idea of what we planned for the day, but no time set. No, it was just beautiful. And I like how you're saying that about um, following that intuition on the little things. So when the big things happen, to trust it, right?
Yep.
And that's amazing about not going, like that car that you did not see, like came so fast. Yeah, that's very
And
cool.
I will tell you, back when I was managing money, I would get intuitive hits all the time. And so that's why it's rule number two. For example, in 2008, my analyst and I had decided to bet that a stock was going to go down. It's called shorting.
Yeah.
And so we did that. And then 3 months later, he came to me and he said, it looks like it's going back up. We should get out. Now, my intellect agreed with him, but my intuition said, don't touch it. Well, I listened to my intellect, I listened to my analyst, and we got out. And then 3 days later, the stock's down another 5%, and my intuition is screaming at me, get back in, it's going lower, it's going lower. So I stopped thinking and just went with my intuition. And we got back in, and 4 months later, we made 60%.
Wow.
We made 60% on our money in 4 months. So that's annualized over doubling your money, right? And that was just trusting my intuition, getting back in and just sticking with it.
So how do you teach your clients to trust their intuition? Like if they're
Yes,
not
yeah.
if
So
they're not using you
yeah,
and they don't have a sidekick of an analyst and they're doing it on their own, how do you get them to trust when the market, high or low, like it wherever you're
right.
buying,
So
selling?
So again, it's developing the intuition by taking the baby steps with all the other things so that you know what it's like when you're doing it. And then what we talked about last week when I was teaching a class is what's really important is to figure out what's going on in your body when you've made a good intuitive decision. So for me, it might be fear is temperature rising, but intuition is
Cooling.
tingling,
Yeah.
a tingling where it's, for me at least, it could be cooling,
Yeah.
but for me, it's a tingling, like an opportunity, like an excitement of taking advantage of an opportunity rather than the temperature rising, which for me, like it's constriction, it's fear. So like figuring out how you're feeling and relating it to intuition. So is it a temperature thing? Is it a jittery or sparkly feeling? What's going on with your body so that the next time you could say, okay, this is intuition, this is not my intellect.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even like I know it's harder with cell phones now because everything is call display, but it's like if it's ringing before you look at it, who's calling, right?
And the
And
other thing yeah, I like that one.
and like I'm really good at like, do I need to get this call? No. Or yes.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I've all because I never have my ringer on my phone, right? But it's funny how when people call me at 4 in the morning, I answer. They're like, "How you weren't supposed to answer?" And I go, "Then why are you calling?"
I used to play this game with my daughters when we went vacationing. We're in a hotel and there's 4 elevators. Close your eyes. Guess which one's coming first.
Oh, nice.
So that's close your eyes. What's your intuition telling you? right? And we played that game all the time. We went away a couple of times a year. So every time we went away, we play the game. Each day we were in, going somewhere, going to the elevator, coming back. And so I help them. They're very intuitive, but I help them to develop their intuition that way.
Are they into stocks like you are?
They
And
are.
yeah, cool.
In fact, in when they were 5 and 3, I asked them for 3 letters, which is a stock symbol.
Yeah.
And each of them gave me a stock symbol. Both of those stocks in 2009 went up 100%. Both of them.
Wow.
So they doubled their money in these 2 stocks.
Mind you, that age is so connected to source, God, whatever you want to call it, that yeah, I don't doubt that. But the fact that they kept it is amazing.
Yes, yes. And it's funny. I helped them develop that too. So I remember we were at Disney World in 2010, 2011, and I say, okay, so we're on vacation. We're gonna each pick 3 letters, and we're going to track these stocks over the next 5 days, and whoever wins, you'll get a little prize. So I remember my oldest daughter, Lauren. By the way, my company name is named after my daughter. So SaLaurMor's name is Lore for Lauren, More for Morgan. So Lauren picked MCY because of Mickey Mouse, MCY. And I don't know why Morgan picked AJG, Arthur J. Gallagher. So Mercury, MCY is Mercury Insurance. So they both picked companies within my sphere of knowledge because I
Oh,
was
that's
primarily a financials company investor and within that insurance companies. So AJG was an insurance broker and MCY was an auto insurance company out of California. And so it was interesting to track during the 5 days who was doing better. They just again, just pulled the letters out of their, like intuition. It was just
yeah.
like, and it was right away. It wasn't like, it's a great game to play if you ever go, you're hanging out with friends at a bar or something. Hey, give me 3 letters. Let's see if we can find a stock. And it takes a really long time. So both times when I had my daughters do that, they picked them really quick. So 3 letters and the financial I know most of the financial companies in trade who trade on the US Stock Exchange, New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. So when they give me the 3 letters, I know. And then if it's not, I have to look it up. And both times they gave me insurance companies. In 2009, they both gave me insurance companies too.
That's so cool. So, if someone's just starting out thinking about maybe becoming like, well, not even becoming a trader, just for their own little thing, would you suggest doing it just by paper at first? Like, pick your stocks, put it on a spreadsheet, just kind of track it to get that intuition feel that, like, is this a
Well,
good
I
stock?
recommend both. So the second part of this book in my 9 Money Rules Millionaires Use, I have a proprietary 5-step stock screen. So I put that in the book. It's free. You can use that and your intuition together. So I actually have a mastermind group and we meet twice a week and we look for stocks that pass the 5-step stock screen that's in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And there are multiple stocks that pass. And so they're not going to invest. And rule number 9 in my book is don't diversify. So I don't want them to buy 20, 50 stocks. So if there are 20 or 10 stocks that pass in the week, pick one, pick two. How do they do it? It's your intuition. So I asked them to rule number 2, trust your intuition and use the process together to pick the best stocks. And I had a woman this year in my mastermind group. She found a stock that was up 91% in 3 months and another one that was up 88% in 60 days.
Cool.
That is doing both. She has very good intuition and she's using the process together to find a stock. Now, there are a lot of companies that passed this year, but she picked just 2 and she's almost quadrupled her money.
So what would you say is this, like, well, I guess it just depends on where you are, but like a starting point for
Yeah, you can
some.
start. I mean, you can start with my 5-step stock screen and paper trade with it to get more comfortable.
Mhm.
That's fine. Paper trading, but if those of you who are listening, watching don't know, it's when you are using pretend money to test the process. So you're
Yeah.
not using real money yet. So you're testing the process to get more and more confident. The client I mentioned earlier, like 5 years ago, who came to me to learn about stocks, we spent months just paper trading, just pretend trading. And he was so good. His intuition was so good. He was trusting the process to my 5-step proprietary stock screen. And he would just pick stocks, they would be up 30% in 3 months, 50% in 3 months. I'm like, dude, you're ready. Like, stop paper
So
trading. Like,
is that normal or is he an anomaly?
well, the people who come to me, they've done quite well. So I would say they're not anomalies.
So
The
they're
people,
ready for you though.
yes, yeah, the people who come to me who want to learn about stocks, I feel like they're ready.
Okay. So it's not like the newbie who's never done anything that.
No, they are newbies. They've known they both. So the woman I talked about who's found 2 stocks this year up 88% and 91%, she didn't know anything about stocks in January. And we're in October right now. And the guy I told you about 5 years ago, he had done some research online, but he didn't know what a price to earnings ratio was. He didn't know how to value a company. He didn't know stock symbols. There was just all the basic stuff, financial statement analysis I taught him. So there was a lot of valuation metrics. There's a lot of things I teach, price targets, that he didn't know anything about, but he was interested
Mhm.
and he wanted to learn. So that's the first step is you're interested, you're excited, you want to learn,
Mhm.
and you have a burning desire to make money.
Where are you finding real estate right now? Good
Well,
investments?
I don't like to generalize. I
I know.
say there are lucrative opportunities all day, every day. And so in this book as well, I have a seven-step real estate screen. So does the property pass the screen? And then once it passes the screen, you can decide if you want to invest. So real estate can be very local. And even within a state, within a county, there can be great opportunities.
Yeah.
And so what we talk about in the book and in my 7-step screen is you want to find the properties that have motivated sellers.
Right. Well, and
And
I don't know if it's happening down there, but up here, a lot of people, investors bought properties to do Airbnb with them, right?
it's
And
all
then,
about cash flow.
I know, but then the province said no more Airbnbs. We don't have enough housing for people. And they're like, we didn't want to be renter, like owners for rental, right? So it's put a big strain on a lot of people.
Yes. So ultimately, and in the book we talk about this, is you want a positive cash on cash return. So if you add the mortgage, the insurance, the property taxes, the maintenance costs, you add all that up. And if you can rent it out for more than those costs, then you have positive cash flow,
Yeah.
right? And so in the book, we talk about only investing in companies with positive cash flow. Don't like, and some people do buy to flip and they'll renovate, and over a 6 to 12 month period or maybe shorter, they'll buy it, they'll renovate it and sell it for more than they bought it for. This type of process in the book that we're talking about is for a longer term investor where you're renting it out and getting positive cash flow each month, generating passive income.
Hmm. So what do you think about like staying only with companies that pay dividends?
Great question. Again, in my book, The 9 Money Rules Millionaires Use, we are looking for companies that pass the screen, the 5-step stock screen.
So whether that
So,
has a dividend or not, that doesn't matter.
correct,
Okay.
correct. So I am agnostic between a company paying a dividend or not. I want a company that passes my screen and is likely to double over the next 2 to 3 years. So those are the two criteria we look at: passing the 5-step stock screen and kind of double your money over 2 to 3 years. Now, people will say that that's impossible, and yet there are hedge funds that have been able to do that over long periods of time. Not a lot, but a few. And so it's sticking with the process, not getting emotional. And that's my criteria. Like, some people will say, oh, I only invest in dividend paying companies. Great. So I rather have a company that's going to double your money in 2 or 3 years rather than you getting a 5% return from a dividend each year. Very different type of return.
Interesting. Yeah, because it really does come down to, and like, yes, I understand the dividend, but I also feel, and this is from a newbie who doesn't understand the game, like, so, and I'm first to say it, that the dividend can be kind of like a false trap, because you're passing up on ABC company who doesn't give a dividend that could go up 80%, but you're getting that 5% because you think it's safe, or like it's a guarantee. And it's like,
But there's no, actually, to be clear, and I talk about this in the book in part 2. So people think the dividend's safe, but it's not, because say you buy a stock that's $100 and the dividend is 5%. So you're getting $5 each year. If the stock goes down to 95, now you've made no money.
right.
The stock goes to 90, you've lost $5. The stock does move up and down.
Yeah.
So just because the dividend is 5% doesn't mean you can't lose money.
Well,
And
and as my example, that other one, that it might fluctuate, but in the long haul, you've gone up 80%.
right. So it's interesting because we talk about risk in the book as well. And the way risk is defined by the professional portfolio managers and in the finance theory and the MBAs is fluctuations of a stock price up and down. So if the stock's at 100 and it can go up 5% or down 5%,
Yeah.
versus go up 10% or down 10%, that's called less risky. But do I really care if a stock goes up 5% or up 10% or up 20%? Like, to me, that's not risk, that's gain.
Yeah.
And yet that's added in to the fluctuation of up, down, up, down. And so risk is defined officially as volatility up and down. But I don't really care about upside risk, I care about downside risk. Right? If a stock's more likely to go up 20% than other stocks, why should I care about that? That's great. But it's defined as the volatility of the stock.
And it's interesting because like I would never think of going up as a risk.
Well, that's how it's defined, though. So when you're looking at beta, which is a measure of risk, it calculates the volatility of stock, whether it's up or down compared to the overall stock market. So if the stock has been going up, 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 say the stock market's up 5% over a year and the stock's up 20% over the year, that's considered more risky because it's gone up 4 times versus the overall stock market. Its beta is 4, and a higher beta means more volatile. So people who are worried about volatility or risk, they don't buy high beta stocks. And yet that particular stock had been going up much more than the overall stock market. So it's important to understand what the way risk is defined. And yes, I will say it may be perceived to be higher risk to find a stock that's going to generate an 80% return. But if you've done the work, you've applied the 5-step stock screen, you use your intuition, and you have a price target, then I think the odds are in your favor. And that's the whole point of what I do, is I want to put the probabilities in your favor so that you're more likely, there's no guarantees, but you're more likely to make money than not.
Right.
That's the idea.
I like that because the more money we make, the more we can help others and we help ourselves and we grow. And it's more, I don't know, it just makes me feel more community, right? Like it's
Right.
not all about individual. It's about let's all help each other be the best we can be.
Well, that's why I started the mastermind group this year. I have a stock investors mastermind group because this way we're sharing ideas. We have a shared spreadsheet and people can take advantage of somebody else finding a great stock,
Mm.
right? And share the idea, and everyone can become prosperous and abundant together.
So tell us more about this mastermind.
So the mastermind meets twice a week. And these are people who have already either gone through my membership or gone through my one-on-one coaching. They know my 5-step proprietary stock screen. It's not rocket science. It's
Mm-hmm.
add, subtract, multiply, and divide. If you can do that, you can do my 5-step stock screen. And it's just practice. So we do it together. So we get on a call and somebody says, "Hey, what do you think about Tesla?" So we put it through the stock screen, we do our price targets, we see if it passes, and then the members decide if they want to buy it or not, if it's past the screen and it has 100% upside. And then somebody else says, "Oh, can we look at Apple? Let's look at Apple." We see if it passes or not, see if it has upside enough, and then they decide what they want to do. If my recommendation is not to buy stocks that don't pass and only buy stocks that do pass and have 100% upside, but they can decide what they want to do. I don't require, I'm not officially allowed to give recommendations. My overall process is pass the 5 steps, but I don't give individual stock recommendations.
Well, and that's interesting you said that because that was my next question. What if it doesn't pass? Do you still buy if you want it?
If you want to, that's rule number 2, trust your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
There's no requirement to do anything or not do anything. I'm just help supporting the mastermind members in doing the 5 steps together. We meet twice a week, so they're getting 2 hours of time with me. If they have any questions about stocks or the macro environment, or we're coming up on an election, what should we do? What normally happens going into or out of an election? Those kinds of macro questions, I can give them guidance on, but I don't make individual stock recommendations. All I do is we do a process together and I support them. So again, the probabilities are in their favor so that they're more likely to make a lot of money than not.
I like that. Well, and it's interesting as you're talking about, you know, what happens when you're coming into election or whatever, and I'm like, does it ring same for a US election to a world election? Like because we've had 52 elections in 2024, there'll be 52 major elections in the world, and it's just like, and I don't know if it's because I'm in Canada that we're more fixated on the American one. Like ours is like whatever. Like, they're gonna call it sometime, but whatever, right? And all the other ones changing, right? Is like your strategy based on the American one and that the volatility that will spread out to the world, or is it?
Good question. So my 5-step stock screen can be used around the globe for any stock anywhere around the globe. And so I've had an Australian client,
Mhm.
I've had a French client, and if you're looking at stocks, if it passes the 5-step stock screen and it has 100% upside in your domestic market, that's great. You can decide whether you want to buy it or not. I don't make macro recommendations,
Right.
meaning like, oh, there's an election coming, this is what you should do. I just give information,
Yeah.
historical information. So this is what's happened in the past in the elections for your country based on, okay, we're coming into an election. This is how the market has done in the past. We're coming out of election. This is how the market's done in the past. And that's
But it
just additional information.
but is there a general framework like as I know you can't say specifics, but as you look back at all past elections, is the market kind of doing the same thing every time? Or is it totally radical and it does whatever it wants?
I would say it's pretty consistent that the stock market does not like uncertainty.
Okay.
So when there's certainty, even if it's not good certainty, it's better than uncertainty.
Okay.
So
That's
each,
fair.
every 4 years in the United States, at least, there's an election in November, first week in November. And so you can look back and see when the race is close, like it's been 4 years ago, 8 years ago, and so on, that the weeks leading up to the November election, the stock market hasn't done great. And then
Okay.
coming out of the election, once there is certainty, no matter who it is, there's there's a better
Like a stabilization.
environment for stocks, more stabilization, correct.
Interesting.
And so and I will say in general in life, there's fear versus faith, fear versus greed, you could say, but I will call it fear versus faith or fear versus love. And how are you operating on your in your daily day to day, and how is the people who are investing operating on a day to day basis? Are they operating in fear? Are they're operating in faith? Things are going to be okay, or things going to go down and be very bad?
Yeah.
And so that there's worries right now. And so that's been reflected in, at least in the United States stock market, in one day the market goes up, the next day goes down, next day goes up, the next day goes down. We've had this for 9 out of 10 days as of the day of this podcast. So there's been uncertainty because you would think, okay, if things are stable, you're just going like this or going like this, but some consistency, and neither of that is happening. And that's based on fear and uncertainty. And when there's more faith that things are going to be okay, then there's more consistency.
Interesting. That's what I was feeling in my gut. Like it goes rocky, 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 and then like, but like I said, I don't follow it that closely right now.
So, yeah, I mean, that's your intuition. Your
Yeah.
intuition's strong and trust it. I mean, I met a woman a number of years ago who was very good in real estate investing.
Mm.
And she trusted her gut and trusted her intuition. And she made a number of very good investments in California and was flipping them basically. She was like, wow, that's crazy price. I got to buy that and sell it quick. And she was able, this is post, the downturn in 2000, 8, 9, 10. So
Hmm.
in the last 10 years. So, again, she was trusting her intuition 100%. Like, this doesn't make any sense. I know I'm going to make money here. Let me take advantage of it.
Interesting. Well, yeah, and like even in my line of work, like housing is such a personal belief system. Like how you're saying about, if you're both at 10, it's gonna go. But if it's like, it's gonna sell, well, I don't know. And it's like just clear the energy. Make sure
Right.
you're all good to move forward, right? It's just like you were saying how you're selling your house, right? You made the decision. What am I rattling around in this house for? Like I use two rooms, like, right? So you were already at the 10-10. Like, let's go. It's time. It's whatever. So of course you're gonna attract the best buyer to fill the home back up, right? Because it's a home that needs to be filled,
Right.
and new memories made, and new laughter, and stuff. Yeah. So very cool. Very cool. Well, once again, wealth of information, and not only a wealth of information, um, just a tangible way for people to understand. Because there's no point trying to teach people stocks or mutual funds or whatever, and you're talking way up here and they're like way down here going, what's he saying? I see his mouth moving, but I don't know what he's saying, right? And what I like about you is that you bring it down to the basic fundamentals of take a step, evaluate which do you want to go right, do you want to go left, do you want to hold, take a step, right? And you're constantly always just reevaluating.
Correct.
And more importantly, because I'm all about intuition, trust your gut.
Yep.
Never steers you wrong.
Absolutely. And for anybody who's interested, I give everybody 30 minutes free
Yeah.
prosperity coaching. So if you want to jump on a call, you can get to SaLaurMor.com, and halfway down there's a link to sign up for your free call. And if you want to talk stock, great. If you want to talk business or real estate, or just want to talk about intuition or money mindset, love to jump on a call. Or if you want to talk about money manifestation techniques, I love talking about those too.
Well, you're just a bundle of wealth in so many ways, right? And yeah, this has been wonderful. Thank you for being on my show. And I'll have everything in the show notes to how to get a hold of Joel and all his tips and tricks and accolades. Oh my gosh, the accolades are so many. It's so wonderful. So
Thank
thank
you so much for having me, Adele. Appreciate you.
you. Wow, what a wonderful conversation with Joel. Um, like I was just saying, he has a wealth of information, has huge accolades, but is able to teach in a way that everyone can understand. Even if you've never looked at a stock, don't understand financials, don't understand the market, he'll bring it down to the level you're at. And that's one of my things I like the most about Joel is he's just down to earth. And most importantly, like he said, trust your intuition. Whether it's driving your car, do I take that turn? Do I wait? Like what, or like how I said, like what what color clothes do you feel like? That's all part of training your intuition to trust in it on the big things, right? If you're always like trusting that you're turning the right way, you're stopping at starting to slow down before the light turns red, all that is trusting your intuition. And it doesn't matter whether it's just daily life, buying houses, doing the stock market. It's believing in you that you're being guided by your gut, your intuition for the best outcome for all concerned. And that's the biggest thing with intuition. It's not just about you, it's for all concerned because once you make a decision with your intuition, it's a ripple effect for everything and anything that you touch as you make that decision. And it's just the best way to live life. Again, this is Adele Bernard from Transition Clarity. This has been an authentic conversation. The show notes will be attached with this podcast. And I look forward to having you on the watching the next show. Thanks and have a great day.